This episode of the Managing Madrid Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, where you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code Managing Madrid over on manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code Managing Madrid at manscaped.com. And we're recording this just after Real Madrid beat Mallorca away from home in what was a bit of a banana peel on the schedule. I'm glad we got the W. And as always, we're going to give the Manscaped Man of the Match award to the player who performed the most because they manscaped the most before the match. So going to lob it up here to Matt Wiltse. Matt, can you please present the Manscaped Man of the Match award?
For sure. The Manscaped Man of the Match award goes to Tchouaméni. He was really, really great tonight. Back in the midfield, showed off some nice technical skills under pressure, and then produced just the go-ahead goal, the lone goal of the game, and really a nice performance. This was what we thought we were getting with Tchouaméni when we signed him in Monaco. Obviously, he played really well in preseason, early in the season, and looks like he's getting right back into form. Such a shame that he's going to be missing on Wednesday, but Tchouaméni, great performance tonight away in Mallorca.
Congratulations, Aurélien Tchouaméni, for winning the Manscaped Man of the Match award. And listeners, if you want to score golazos from outside the box, please go over to manscaped.com. Use code Managing Madrid. Manscaped before your next game, and you will have great results. Manscaped.com. Use code Managing Madrid for 20% off and free shipping.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, we are recording this. Sorry about that. We're recording this about 20 minutes after Real Madrid beat Mallorca 1-0 away from home. Compared to Manchester City, Matt, this was a huge come down. Like, Manchester City was a rave. This was just, I don't know what the opposite of a rave was. This was just us sitting in the living room, staring at the wall, looking at the paint dry. It was largely uneventful, but do we really care that it wasn't the greatest game ever? Tough place to play for us in the past few years. We know how Mallorca play. We know the thugs that are in that team. And we were able to rest Vinny and Rodrigo. I mean, Vinny did come off the bench, but we also got Camavinga off the bench. We got Jude off the field early enough, and we got a W. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Aguirre has turned this Mallorca team into a tough, gritty, physical team. It's always a grind against them. And I think we knew that's what we were going to enter when we entered the field and when the match started, and that's exactly what we got. A lot of chippy fouls, a lot of physical contact after the play. I think it was always going to be a grind, and we were playing without Rodrigo and Vinicius, so two players that obviously can make the difference in the final third, break a player down off the dribble, break those deep blocks. So it was always going to be a little bit more of a challenge with those rotations in place, but we got it done. When we talked about it on Thursday, Kiyan, like, this could have been a banana peel. If you lose this one and then you lose the Barca game, all of a sudden you're only 2 points at the top. So this was an important one to win, despite the Manchester City games sandwiched in between. So this was huge. This was important, despite it being one of the more boring games of the season.
It was absolutely huge. I mean, when we did our podcast on Thursday, I think it was. And listeners, if you want to go listen to that, that's actually a pretty timeless episode, in the sense that if you listen to it now, even after the Mallorca game, it'll hold up, because we talk about City and kind of room for optimism, and we talk about that. That's over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid, our YouTube membership, so you can go and listen to that. But one of the questions that was asked was, is Mallorca a banana peel? And I think it was, in the truest sense, because it was a banana peel so much that it didn't exist to me in a weird way, if that makes sense. I know it's crazy, but like, so much of my focus was City. Oh, and then we got Clásico after the second leg. And I almost forgot about this Mallorca game. And I think that in itself made it a banana appeal that like it wasn't really highlighted on the schedule for obvious reasons. But like you said, you slip in this one. Now all of a sudden you have more pressure to win the Clásico than you already did. And God forbid you lose this and Barca sneaking 3 points at the Bernabeu later, that all of a sudden 6 points shaved off. It's a really, really tricky situation to be in, and one you don't want to be in at all. So I'm glad we got the W. I saw Lucas on Twitter kind of saying like if this was a sign for Manchester City, this is a bad showing, a bad omen, or whatever it was, whatever the wording was. I'm paraphrasing. I'm like, I don't think this really meant anything for Manchester City. You could talk yourself into, okay, well, if you win 5-0, 6-0, Vinny and Jude get a hat trick, okay, sure, it gives you a different kind of momentum heading into it. Now you look at Manchester City winning 5-1 today. You and I were talking about his Erling Haaland do. He scored a penalty, forced an own goal, and so you can twist it either way. But I don't think this really meant that much for City. I'm just really glad we got the W. Where do you want to start? Because I think there was a lot of talk about, okay, Carlo's not going to rotate. You want momentum. I know we had 9 days rest before that, but it seemed like a lot of these players needed the match fitness to get the rhythm going. And the 9 days rest maybe actually did us a disservice rather. So a lot of people were saying there were going to be no rotations, all this, but we actually got a heavily rotated side. Like we said earlier, Camavinga, Vinicius, Rodrigo all on the bench, Cruz on the bench. Did I miss anyone? That's 4. I think that was it, right?
Yeah. I think Ancelotti showed his hand a bit, and I'm actually, given what we talked about on Thursday, I'm happy about this because I don't think Militao's ready. It looks like Nacho will get that start against City on Wednesday. I think that's the right move. Honestly, I know people may be frustrated, but I think Ancelotti's doing right by the player Militao rather than maybe the team Real Madrid, because Ancelotti's thinking about Militao's career, not just one game. And in the grand scheme of his career, there's no need to rush him back into this type of environment, that level of the game. Yes, it's a shame that we won't have him at full 90 minutes capability and able to play that game, but I think Ancelotti's doing the right thing there.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this before the game too. Like I said, if he plays against Mallorca and he's great, that means he's starting against City. Obviously, he comes in off the bench late. He's not going to come in against City. It would be like, is there any scenario you can think of that, he comes in against City? Maybe he's like the Vallejo sub in extra time.
Yes, that's where I see it. Like, or if we're winning and you throw him on in the last 5-10 minutes to win headers in the box and on set pieces and stuff like that. I could definitely see that happening.
Makes sense. All right. Well, back to the game. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the overall performance. We also do have a super chat already, so we're going to take that. This is going to actually be a shorter show today, very focused on Mallorca and what was an uneventful game. So there's not that much to extrapolate because we're going to dive into City previews next week. Well, Tuesday and then Wednesday before the game. So we'll have a lot of time to talk about City. We're not going to do that today. Bellingham, who was heavily scrutinized under the microscope after the City game. What did you think of his performance?
I thought it was an improvement. I still don't think it's the Bellingham we know and love and expect kind of week in and week out in terms of his top quality. But I thought it was a much better performance. I thought some of the movement he had and just the technical skill to wriggle his way out of 2 players and come away with the ball and dribble up the field. That one he had in the first half where the ref called him on a foul, which was ridiculous. He was away after that. And I think it was gradual improvement. I think he's gearing up for Wednesday. I think we'll see I'm hopeful that we'll see a much better performance against City on Wednesday. And Ancelotti did right by him by starting him because, like we've talked about, he needs that match rhythm. He needs to keep going. 60 minutes was solid. Looked like he was maybe even frustrated to be taken off, which, all great players, they never want to come off. So I thought it was better though. What'd you make of it?
I liked it. I thought he did. Some of his turns under pressure and the way he was being hounded and swarmed, because a lot of our play went through the left side. And I actually, thought that was a bit problematic in some sense because Mallorca were very congested on that side. I'm sure they were thrown off a little bit that they didn't get Vinicius to start this game, but they're very, very focused on congesting that side of the field where Real Madrid usually funnel their possession. So we had a lot of touches from Bellingham, Mendy, Modric on that side, and Brahim a little bit too. And I thought one of the issues was, not to get ahead of myself because we're talking about Bellingham still, but one of the issues was basically that Fede wasn't as involved on the right side, and we weren't really doing anything. Like, I think in moments like that where it's that congested on one side, the answer is often quick diagonal switches to the far man who's inevitably open.
Yeah, that's where you miss Cruz.
That's where you miss Cruz, and I actually thought Modric had a good game today. But
yeah, me too.
Yeah, Cruz is just automatic. It's just like he's firing that pass before the ball even gets to his feet. It's 1-2 touches, bang. But I also think like you could have gotten Fede involved more in the first half, but just getting him to drive the ball forward. One of the things too was that because we didn't have Vinicius and Rodrigo in the starting lineup, was you had Joselu in there, and there's not that many options. You can't really replace like for like wingers because you really only have Brahim, and then you have Arda Güler, who hasn't really been involved much. But you started Joselu in this game, and I think it's a little bit weird that if you're going to have Joselu in the team, it's pretty clear how you want to play, right? You should be pumping some balls into the box for him. We had 4 crosses in the first half, non-threatening. And I think if you're playing that way, I mean, it would have really helped if you just kind of replaced Joselu in that situation with a line breaker, someone who can actually link up and help Jude in those tight spaces. We didn't really have that. But that aside, back to Bellingham, I kind of went on a tangent there. I thought he was very press resistant. The shot that hit the bar was a brilliant effort, played really well. I didn't have a problem with his performance today. I thought, again, he was being swarmed by 3-4 players every time he touched it. It was a positive performance from Bellingham for me.
Yeah, and I just want to build off your Joselu point there. I mean, I think it would have, you're right. We kind of played into Mallorca's hands, especially in the first half. It was just slow build up, letting them get their shape, letting them position themselves defensively, which obviously doesn't help Joselu. And we didn't put any crosses in, like you mentioned, Kiyan. And I think we just need a little bit more variety in our game. And so maybe instead of the slow build up, a couple times you hit the long ball direct into Joselu and he has to contest it 50-50 with the center backs. But even if he doesn't win it, that usually creates a second ball. And the second ball, we should be all over, whether it's Jude, Fede, Brahim, they're picking it up and then running at a retreating Mallorca back line. I think we could have done more of that when you have a target guy like Joselu in there. Just vary it up a little bit, hit the long ball, see if he can win it. If not, we pick up the scraps. And we just didn't see any of that in the first half.
Well, there were a couple moments that Joselu, I think, was useful in those situations that you speak of. Like there were moments when Mallorca actually pressed us high. And Lunin is looking around. There's a man-to-man high press happening. He has no outlet, so he pings it to Joselu, long ball. And Joselu is an important target in those situations because he can bring it down, use his physicality to hold up play. And he's useful in that sense, and he was. And obviously, he had that brilliant link-up sequence in the second half where he receives it from Modric. Modric cuts back outside in the left half space. Joselu plays him through. Modric squares with Brahim, who I think should have scored. Based on the one replay I saw, plus the real action shot. But yeah, those are just my 2 cents. But again, like there wasn't, if you wanted to rest Vinny and Rodrigo, then it's not like you have this plethora of options to bring on instead of Joselu for like replacements for those guys. But my point was essentially that if you're going to play Joselu, maybe just get the ball into him a little bit more, which I don't think Real Madrid did. So that was one of the problems that I observed in the first half. Again, it was uneventful, so I don't know how much to read into this performance as a whole. We got the job done. Second half was a little bit better. I thought the subs, Vinny and Camavinga, namely, were really strong off the bench. Vinny immediately picked it up, was threatening, was getting past his marker, dribbling, creating all kinds of danger, and Camavinga picked up the ball really well too.
Yeah, and we definitely had our chances. Like, I think my favorite sequence in the game was when Tchouaméni evaded pressure in the middle of the field, carries it up, feeds Jude, and then Jude hits the crossbar. You obviously had the big Brahim chance where he literally just had to walk it in, or he tried to walk it in and missed. And then even Vinny, like you mentioned, when he first came in, had a couple shots, and then he played that one that went right across the goal line and nobody was there. So we had plenty of opportunities. I think if we came away winning this 3-0 like we should have, maybe people wouldn't be quite as negative and as downbeat about the performance. But I think it's okay that you just, as long as you grind out and get the win here and can then focus on City, then hey, we did what we needed to do. Yeah, there should have been some more goals in this, but we had enough there to win this game comfortably. So it wasn't like we played so poorly and that Mallorca nearly won it at the end and blah blah blah. Like it wasn't like that.
Well, although there was that weird Lunin at the last second of the game.
So I missed
did he
that. I
get
just saw
fouled?
like a clip of Lunin right at the end, but I kind of missed that.
Oh, so he drops the ball, and I think it was Moriki who he didn't. It was a terrible finish. He had an empty net. But I wonder if it would have been called back for a foul. I just didn't see. I only saw one replay and it wasn't clear. So forgive me. I'm just not sure. This is like right after the game, and I haven't seen more replays than just the one. I think it would have been called back for a foul, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But Lunin, Lunin had an incredible save in the 74th minute. He had one moment where he looked a little bit shaky on the cross in the 38th minute, and then did a lot better dealing with a set piece in the 60th minute. Couple more. I'm realizing now, like, there was actually a little bit more from this game than I initially thought. But I'm going to throw you 3 names. You decide which one you want to talk about. Brahim Diaz, Ferland, Mendy, and Luka Modric.
I think Ferland. I'm on a Ferland kick right now. He's playing really well. Really happy. I think he's finally drawing some of the praise that he deserves. You saw him just shut down everybody 1v1 today. It's solid on the ball. He's coming into form, and it's just because, I think mostly just because he's finally been able to get some continuity, stay healthy, match rhythm. That's all he needed to get back to the Ferland we know and love. And so I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's playing this well.
Yeah, there were a couple times he actually came over to the opposite side to stop an attack. He was really solid. It was a great omen to have a really great informed Mendy, which we didn't have at Etihad last season. He wasn't even there because of his stop-start nature to his health. Matt and I had a huge segment, by the way, on Thursday about Ferland Mendy, his contract, Alphonso Davies, the left-back situation. That was for members. We had a long chat about this, so we're not going to get too much into it now, but Matt and I are both pretty impressed by Ferland Mendy right now. His run of form. Brahim Diaz, mixed bag?
Yeah, I thought he had moments. He obviously had to take on more of the responsibility today without Vinny and Rodrigo. He and Bellingham had to shoulder more of that creative spark. I thought he had moments where he got away from his defender, turned really well, but it was just that last pass, that final shot, like we talked about, that one opportunity where it didn't come off for him today. But I still thought he had little moments here and there.
The initial turn, generally brilliant. The initial dribble, the initial ball carry.
Yeah.
Worked hard defensively. It was that final decision, the final ball, the final shot that was kind of lacking for me. Luka Modric today, 114 touches, most of anyone on the field, played 85 minutes, couple shots, 4 completed dribbles. Vinicius in his 28 minutes, 4 shots, 4 completed dribbles. 3 of those shots were on target and also just caused a bunch of chaos. We have a few super chats. I also want to dig up Ancelotti's post-game quotes that Managing Madrid should be tweeting about by now, because Ancelotti went up first. What did you want to touch on before we get to those?
No, I agree with everything you said on Vinny and Modric. I think Modric has been on a fine little run of form here. Really since he scored that goal against Sevilla. Even his cameos off the bench have been pretty solid. And so it'll be interesting to see what Ancelotti opts to do with him in the City game. I think he might have a similar role to what he had last time, playing maybe final 20, 30 minutes and trying to just impact the game.
Yeah. Ancelotti after the game says, and if you want Ancelotti's quotes in real time, just go to the Managing Madrid Twitter account. The Managing Madrid Twitter account is always tweeting out post-game quotes from the players, the coaches, etc. He says, I'm just scanning. I'm just going for the interesting stuff. He says, I was thinking of giving Militao more minutes in the second half, but the score was uncomfortable. Rudiger will start against City. Wow, shocking. On Wednesday, we will not win because of our fitness, but because of our behavior. Okay. All right. Nothing too crazy about those post-game quotes. Let's get to some super chats. And I'm skimming the super chats. None of these are questions. So I'm going to just read them, pause briefly, and you can jump in whenever you want to jump in, okay? These are all comments. So Ali Wardy, thank you for your donation, says, managed well by Ancelotti. In my opinion, the subs played out of the way. Must be a typo there. To maintain rhythm into the City game. Just an observation. Also, welcome back, Matt. There you go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everything Ancelotti did substitution-wise today looked like it was just to give players minutes, give them a run out, give them, like Ali said, that rhythm and that speed of thought, process of thought that you only get through playing a game. So I think that's what Ancelotti was thinking.
P7 Junior says Nacho is probably our slowest IQ player.
I got to be honest. I strongly disagree with this one. Given
what does slowest IQ mean?
I guess I think if he's talking about in-game tactical IQ or reactions, but either way, I don't agree. I think Nacho's proven over the years and this year he can play any position in the back line. That itself is a sign of a highly intelligent player. And I think the way he's survived and lasted so long at Real Madrid and has been, remember this, he's the only player that's been promoted from Castilla directly to the first team in how many years? Like decades. And has been a mainstay because of his tactical IQ, his overall IQ. And I actually think he's on the opposite end of that spectrum, probably one of our fastest and highest IQ players.
Ural Desai says, thoughts on Fede and Rudy playing full 90. Yeah, Fede surprised me a little bit because he was the ones who were vocal against City, like we were tired. And he's one of the guys who runs the most. Rudiger I can kind of get, but yeah, I was a little bit surprised about that. Zero of Ox says, did anyone else notice Jude didn't complain today?
I think I did notice that, and I think it's a good thing. Him, like Vinny, you can't get drawn into that stuff because it takes away from your game. And I think recently he has been a little bit drawn into it and frustrated, obviously, with the refereeing, particularly in La Liga. So it's good to see him just kind of, you know what, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to play my game.
And then this one from Perry Wiltse. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Do you agree with the criticism Vinicius received after providing 2 assists against City? Also shameless to see that a large part of the fan base want to believe Rodrigo is better at left wing. Thoughts?
Yeah, so you and I talked at length about this on Thursday, and I think we both felt strongly that he did not deserve that criticism that he received, especially those were 2 world-class assists against City. And yeah, I just didn't understand it.
Yeah, and I had a whole segment on this after the game as well. You and I went deeper on it on Thursday, but yeah, I firmly believe, because like I think the criticism was like he didn't have a good game and all this, and like my whole thing is like he's a moments player. The guy is on the field because he's a superstar. He can go having a bad game but still change the game and flip it on its head completely, and he did with those 2 assists. And you always want him on the field regardless. We're going to go through these a little bit faster. I know Matt has to hop off soon. City all the way says, you guys won't be lucky again. 5-0 City beatdown. Awesome. Thanks for the $2, buddy. Willard says, Camavinga has been on the right side off the pitch. a lot in the second half of the season. Oh, right side of the pitch, like a right CM, I guess. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have a free role, or is he more comfortable there, or is he just playing right CM? He scored more there too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think that's something to watch. He's obviously left-footed, so able to cut in on his left foot playing from that position, but it's definitely one to watch. I don't know if I've noticed that he's been more on the right side. I definitely noticed it in the City game, but I think it's something I'll take more note of going forward.
Well, if Cruz is on the field and Camavinga is also playing in midfield,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
going to
good point.
be. I mean, the funny thing is against City, he wasn't actually a right CM. He
Number
was the
6
anchor.
drifting, yeah.
Yeah, but he was drifting on that side a little bit. He does tend to shoot more from that side. When he's playing left central midfielder, he has a really good natural tendency to cover for the left back and has good synergy there because he's been used to playing left back now. When the right center midfielder, the con is he can actually cut in and shoot. Like that little shoulder drop past Grealish, I thought was really great. He has that in his toolkit. All right, Matt, I'm gonna go through the some quick XG stuff if you have time.
Yep.
And then we can wrap it here. So hold on, I'm going to share my screen. Here are the shots and the damage they did. So remember we were talking about that Lunin dropping the ball last second. It obviously shows up at the XG chart because if it was going to be called back, then it wouldn't have. But it didn't go in, so there was no need to do that. But here it is, just to give you an idea. Vedat Muriqi, 94th minute, 0.32. It was a big chance. It was actually their biggest.
Half their XG.
Yeah. 1.81 overall XG for us, which is an indicative of a better second half because in the first half we had 0.04 XG. Brahim Diaz, this is the one where Modric squares it to him and he just miscontrols it. He doesn't take it first time. Fede Valverde, don't remember this one for some reason. Oh, this is one where Vinny, I think, dribbles and there's a chaotic sequence. Those were our two biggest chances. And then this is the Chouameni one. What? So
it was nice for us to get that type of goal after the City game, to be honest.
Well, just to talk about City for a second. Did you see City Luton?
No, I didn't see any of it.
The goals even? Did you see the goals?
No.
The goals were just banger after banger. Guardiola scored another banger.
After I said 9 out of 10 times he won't shoot, he won't score.
Yeah, Doku scored a banger. Maybe it was only those two that were bangers. I can't remember, but there was at least 2 bangers in there. And it was only Luton. But you know, I'm pointing this up because, you know, I was reflecting on the idea of like, oh, you know, well, Foden and Guardiola wouldn't normally score those, but I think the problem with City is that they have a bunch of individually brilliant players who can come up with moments like that out of their ass on a low XG and score an improbable goal. And they have that enough of those, and they can do it consistently enough that I think it you know, the margin of error is just so small, right, with those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Mark Stats bot, I'm gonna see if he put up numbers yet. Yeah, he did. So I'll share my screen for that one too, and then we'll wrap it after that. Mark Stats bot is the greatest Twitter account on that damn app. The greatest bot, I should say, the greatest bot on Twitter and it's the only good bot. So we already went over the XG, expected threat, slightly in Mallorca's favor. Actually, we had more possession and field tilt. Let's look at the charts. You can see our pass map. Joselu is the most disconnected, I guess. That's a little bit, you know, to be expected. And Luka Modric, confirmation. Just a great game. And this is also vindicative of your Nacho stance from earlier. Nacho, Rudiger, and Modric are best ball progressors through passing and ball play.
Part of that too is obviously how deep Mallorca was playing. So, and then Modric coming deep to pick up the ball. So
yeah. Awesome. I'm gonna just quick run through just a couple of really quick items. Modric getting a standing ovation as he subbed off. It made me think, like, for these guys who are buying tickets to the games or coming to see Real Madrid play when they come to town, this might be the last time they ever get to see Luka Modric.
Yeah, I think Ancelotti even knows that, and I think that's why part of the reason why he subs him off in the 85th minute, so he does get that recognition. So it's good. It's good for Modric. I hope he himself recognizes that. I'm sure he does.
It's just I remember like making this point like early in the season. I'm gonna like just really cherish Luka Modric as much as I can before he retires. Like we're really in the tail end of it now. I know we've been saying that for years, but we really got to cherish Luka Modric and what's left of him, man. These are still, we're still in the good old days before they're over. We're still in the good old days. All right, so Matt, on Monday, I'm off to Manchester. So on Tuesday, guys, I'm gonna join with other Managing Madrid staff, possibly some journalists, live on site. Etihad, I'll be there on Tuesday for the training session and press conferences of Real Madrid and Manchester City, Ancelotti and Pep Guardiola, and whatever player they send out. And then on Wednesday, we'll do a pre-game show from the Etihad, like an hour before the game from the stadium. And then, of course, Wednesday, we're hopping on for a victory celebration podcast, post-game podcast. That'll be all on YouTube. It'll all be on Spotify, Apple, etc. as well. Anything to plug, Matt, before we finish up here?
I think we're good.
No? All right, cool. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Tuesday from Manchester. And peace out.